So I'm not exactly sure where we dropped off, but yeah, we're gonna continue this. But look at this gorgeous, look at this gorgeous scene here. You got dashes of red mixed in with it. It's just phenomenal, really. It looks photorealistic. Looks very photorealistic. Let me copy this URL real quick.
Sentence and Mrs. Kathy saying
Yep,
that she
look at that. That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. I think it's the actual environment that looks like that. You know, that particular area of the world, the globe, probably gets the sunset like that.
loves him. This is the part that I didn't really understand, because mid-sentence and Mrs. Kathy saying that she loves him. But every dramatic man does, leaves mid-sentence and Mrs. Kathy saying that she loves him. This is the part that I didn't really understand, because why would it degrade Catherine to marry Heathcliff? She's basically
Because he's a Soviet, and he cannot read. See, even though I didn't read the book, I still picked that up. I picked that up by AKA watching the film. Even the first time I saw that, he's a Soviet and he cannot read. You get that with your first show, and I've seen it 5 times already. You can also get that by doing what's called research.
living in poverty at this point, meaning that her and Heathcliff are literally in the same boat. Yeah, she wants security, yeah, she wants money, I get it, but the way that she says it, the way that she spits it out like he's nothing, it just...
Catherine has basically been spoiled. Therefore, she acts like it despite her financial situation. She believes that she is entitled to, she believes that she's entitled. That's the best way to say it. She's entitled to Heathcliff as her pet. She's entitled to Edgar as her husband. She's entitled to... She's just entitled.
Didn't add
Spoiled
up.
white girl.
Something felt off, and as it turns out, something was off. Because there's a huge piece of context that the film just cuts out, and once you know what it is, that line hits so different. But we'll get to that in a minute. For now, just know that watching it blind, it felt random.
How would you know if it cuts out? Because if you haven't read the book.
Huge piece of context that the film just cuts out. As it turns out, something was off. Because there's a huge piece of context that the film just cuts out, and once you know what it is, that line hits so different. But we'll get to that in a minute. For now, just know that watching it blind, it felt random. Catherine then waited a whole year to see if Heathcliff would return before eventually deciding to marry Edgar, who, by the way, seems like a genuinely nice guy. He's rich, he's polite, he gives her everything she could possibly want, just the whole shebang. After she gets married, we then get this 2-minute montage which is meant to cover a whole year of her life. A whole year, and what do we see? The mansion, the dresses, the aesthetic, the wealth. What we don't see is her missing Heathcliff. We don't see her lying awake at night. We don't see her questioning her choices. To me,
actually, she does miss Heathcliff, because if you notice several of the scenes, she's constantly being, effed in the A, and it was the front. She's doing her lovemaking with Edgar. She's clearly not thinking about Edgar. Her gaze is off. Like, she's thinking about Heathcliff. And by the sound of the score, yeah, she definitely misses Heathcliff. And despite all of the splendor that she lives in, she has moments of that happiness, but she still misses Heathcliff. You can tell. It's in between. It's in the gaps. It's in between all those love-making scenes, as well as and if you listen to the song, actually, the song is called it's the Wuthering Heights. I'm sorry, Wuthering Heights. The score done by what's her name, Charlie XCX. What kind of a name is that? That has to be like, I don't know what that even means. The song I'm looking for. Shadow. It's got the song. It's got certain lyrics in it. Let's see the album, real quick. Track listing. House is in there. While the sound is in there, dying for you, always everywhere is at the end. Oh, Chains of Love. My bad, hold on. Let's see, Chains of Love. If you can find the video. I'm not gonna play the video for copyright reasons, but yeah, they always tour. Concerned about beauty or the appreciation of beauty. Okay. Let's see. It's the Chains of Love. Chains of Love lyrics. Let me look at the lyrics. We'll have to wait for a second. I got all these fucking tabs open. It's annoying. Okay. I'd rather lie down on thorns. I'd rather lie down in the stream. I'd rather light myself on fire. Shadowing like glass. Yes, they're breaking up my heart. The chains of love are cruel. I shouldn't feel like a prisoner. So those few lines of lyric. Chains of love are cool. Because she loves two people. Edgar and also Heathcliff. And she's torn between the two. That's why she says, I shouldn't feel like a prisoner, because she feels like she loves prisoner, like she really can't choose. Like she's already chosen, but she regrets her decision to marry Edgar, because she still knows that she loves Heathcliff. And she misses him. So if you listen to those lyrics, with what you can hear while you watch the scene play out, you can clearly see that she does love Heathcliff.
It looked like she was living her best life. But what's this? Heathcliff comes back. But this time he's rich with a haircut and a hoop earring. I'm honestly surprised.
Yeah, my boy had a fucking earring and a gap in his, and he had a cap in his gap to replace that, tooth that somehow went missing.
He didn't also have two of his fingernails painted, but that is besides the point. The movie surprised he didn't also have two of his fingernails painted, a haircut and a hoop earring. I'm honestly surprised he didn't also have two of his fingernails painted, but that is besides the point. The movie treats their reunion like it's this explosive, earth-shattering moment, like it clearly wanted me to lose my mind. But I barely blinked. Because if you never showed me her longing for him, if you never showed me what she lost, then why would I care that he's back? You think...
Like I said, they literally did. You gotta watch the scene play out while you listen to the lyrics. The lyrics were chosen for that particular scene. Anyway, I digress. I'm very curious, how did Heathcliff... How did Heathcliff get rich? How did he get rich? Is never explicitly explained, remaining a purposeful ambiguity, but it is implied that to be acquired through immoral, illicit, and ruthless means during his 3-year disappearance. Common theories include involvement in the slave trade. Damn, I guess he know best because he's a servant, right? A white servant, get it? White people, gotta love them. Gambling, loan sharking, probably not gambling, because he knows better than to do that, and shady business dealings with the British Empire. Well, he did say it was kind of fun at times. I bet it had to do with sex, not sex trafficking, but sex, like prostitution. He's probably, I bet he was a pimp. He dressed like a pimp, so might love in that. so he can inherit it from his he inherited it from his daughter, from his stepdaughter Kathy. I don't think he acted as a mercenary, but the white slave trade probably. Oh, yeah, so he loaned money to the gambler, then he eventually held the mortgage because he knew that he was going to gamble it away. Pimping, like I said. Slave trafficking, anything quick, lucrative, and disgusting enough for him to once saying a thing like leading a brutal life and struggling only for Kathy. Maybe he's in the YouTube. Maybe he's a YouTube celebrity, like Mr. Beast. Yeah, it doesn't seem like that for the cold version of Heathcliff, but the white version definitely. Anyway, I think we should continue this lovely discussion. Let me get back on track. I'm sorry, my bad. How did you do?
Think a little hoop earring is gonna have me weak at the knees? No,
Nope.
I'm watching her living it up, eating massive strawberries. From there,
Let me guess, because you're a lesbian.
Edgar invites Heathcliff to stay in their house, and what follows is genuinely exhausting. Every scene between Heathcliff and Catherine is just the two of them being horrible to each other. Just back and forth petty drama to the point where I was so fed up. I get what they were going for, the tension, the push and pull, but it just didn't work. It was giving toxic situationship rather than epic love story. And as the movie went on, the more nasty they got. They
So
even
it's
started
tons of
using Edgar's
things.
sister Isabella as basically a pawn in their toxic drama, which is just cruel and gross. But don't worry, it gets worse. Because then comes their love affair montage where we finally see them bang in just about every place you can imagine. In the back of a carriage, in the middle of an open field, in a room made to look like her skin. Yes, that's a real thing that happened in the movie. It was supposed to feel passionate and exciting, but instead it just felt boring. It turns out that watching two of the most beautiful people on earth do the deed isn't that riveting.
It's like
duh,
Isabella.
that is literally what you were born to do. Congratulations.
You want me to
Where is the grit? Where is the drama? Where is the love? In my opinion, I feel like there's more passion
You
in
don't
the
want them to
build-up
stop.
before the kiss than the actual kiss itself, and I wish they played with that more. And spoiler alert for later in the video, but they don't even kiss in the original book. I know, it is crazy, but it gets even crazier in just a minute. Honestly, the only person that I actually felt anything for throughout all of this was Edgar. This poor man is being completely
up in the
betrayed,
ass.
and he has has no idea. But luckily, he quickly catches on to what they've been doing after Nellie exposes their secret. Kathy, who is now pregnant, realizes that she has to end her affair with Heathcliff, which of course, he doesn't take very well. So in a very unhinged move, Heathcliff turns around and marries Edgar's sister, Isabella, not because he has any feelings for her, but purely as revenge on Catherine. He then drags her off to Wuthering Heights where they can live together, and as you can imagine, that is probably not a good time for Isabella. Pretty soon after this, we get these letters from Isabella saying that she's basically being abused by Heathcliff. She even goes as far as to wonder if he's not even human, but some
which is kind of true, but
these letters, which are supposed to be read by Kathy, are actually read by Nellie, who quickly rushes to Wuthering Heights to try and save her. I truly felt for Isabella when I was watching this because she is just so naive, and to see her get taken advantage of by Heathcliff was so devastating to watch. Meanwhile, Heathcliff keeps getting darker and more cruel by the day. But before we can even process that, the film quickly turns back on itself. Nellie arrives to what she thought was an abusive situation to then see that Isabella was in on it. And I don't just mean that she was simply writing fake letters, no, I mean that the sexual abuse was twisted into this kink fantasy.
Well, to be fair, they were not entirely fake. They were somewhat true. They were at least half lie. At least.
When Nellie walks in, she sees Isabella tied up to the wall wearing a dog collar and crawls across the floor. When she asks if this is a joke, Isabella just simply barks and winks at her. Sorry, but why am I watching puppy play in a movie set in the 18th century? I don't know.
Maybe because Heathcliff got the idea from an earlier scene involving the exact same thing. And he made poor Joseph watch. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Pay attention to that one posting Joseph.
I don't know how they managed it, but every lovemaking scene in this movie is so incredibly degrading. There was even a scene where Kathy described
Sounds like you're jealous, sweetheart. Sorry, it just sounds like you're jealous.
Her own sexual relationship with Heathcliff as one in which she degrades herself. The whole time I was watching it, it was so clear that they never wanted you to see Heathcliff as this monster because, of course, you still needed to find him hot. So yeah, he can manipulate and degrade a naive young woman, but it's fine because she's into it, so it's hot. That is the logic this film is working with. Anyway, whilst Heathcliff is out there making Isabella roll over for a treat, Kathy is literally dying. She lost her baby in the womb and spends her time depressed, convinced Heathcliff has forgotten about her. What she doesn't know is that he has been writing to her this whole time. It's just that Nellie has been burning every letter. And can I just pause for a second, because am I the only one who thinks her reading those letters would have made things worse? Because this man wasn't exactly writing her love letters, was he? Anyway, eventually her miscarriage turns to sepsis and she dies alone in her bed. We then see Heathcliff riding his horse like the wind to try and get to her, but sadly he is too late. The next scene was actually quite beautiful, where Heathcliff hugs Catherine's dead body and asks her to haunt him for the rest of his life. That was genuinely good, but then the movie just kind of ends right there, and I just sat there very confused, because around me all I heard were people sniffling and crying, and I genuinely felt like I had watched a different movie. I understand it's sad, but I felt nothing towards these characters. Not because I'm heartless, but because the movie never gave me a reason to care. They were two of the most—
How can you be so heartless? No, it's because you're cold-blooded.
whiny, self-destructive, immature people I have ever watched on screen. And the film just assumed that watching beautiful Jacob Elordi cry would be enough to have me invested. But it wasn't. Now listen, there are good things about this movie, like the score for example. It's dramatic and intense, constantly trying to tell you how to feel, which is probably necessary because without it, I doubt you would actually feel anything. The fact that on a first watch, I had time to analyze the sound and the lighting instead of being emotionally invested, that is not a good sign. Visually, it's amazing. Some shots are genuinely gorgeous, I'll give it that. But pretty cinematography can't save a hollow story. I left the cinema thinking, maybe I just didn't get it, you know, maybe I'm missing something. But once I went home and actually looked into the original book, I realized why. Because this was never meant to be a love story, and once you understand that, everything changes. Let's start off with the casting, because this was one of my main issues. Remember how I said I found the characters whiny, annoying, and insufferable? Yeah, because in the book, that makes sense. They're supposed to be around 18 years old. Kathy is around 17 when she gets married, and Heathcliff is 19 when he returns. So their immature behavior makes perfect sense. In the movie, we're watching a 35-year-old and a 28-year-old 8-year-old behave like dramatic teenagers and
Do you know why I love 2024 Civil War so much? Because it's a warning. This movie is yet another warning.
we're supposed to find it hot. I don't care how hot they are, watching them act like narcissistic idiots for 2 hours is not romantic. And even beyond that, the chemistry just wasn't there. The film kept telling me that they're so obsessed with each other through the many intimate scenes, but I never believed it. I feel like the film confused physical contact and connection. I mean, just because they're constantly clawing at each other doesn't mean that there's any depth there. It just means they need to calm down. It didn't help that I could only see them as Jacob and Margot, not Heathcliff and Catherine. They just didn't belong in those roles at all, and for the longest time I was genuinely puzzled at how this casting came to be. So I did a bit of digging and found something out that genuinely made my eye twitch. Basically, Margot Robbie originally signed onto this as a producer, and then after reading the script, she decided that she wanted to play Kathy. And I'm sorry, but that genuinely makes my skin itch, because when you're producing the film, who exactly is gonna tell you no? It's literally her project. Doesn't matter that she's double the character's age. She had the power, she wanted the role, so she got it. And that, more than anything, is what annoys me. But it seems like this lack of care when it comes to casting gets even worse when it comes to Jacob Elordi as Heathcliff. You see, in the book, although his ethnicity is never exactly stated, Heathcliff is described as having dark skin. Throughout the story, he's discriminated against, called Heathcliff is described
in aspect, in dress, in manners. In dress and manners. Unsuspecting allegedly. I'd have to get a modern text because I can't understand.
as having dark skin. Throughout the story, he's discriminated against, called slurs, and seen as an outsider because of his skin. And that matters because the entire class dynamic
Face brightened for a moment and then he was all kinds of finishes. And had a chance.
of the book hinges on the fact that Heathcliff is different. He's not just poor and uneducated, he is visibly different from Catherine. Now turn that complex character into a 6'5" white surfer guy and you've got a completely different story. Let me show you exactly what I mean. In the book, Catherine has a brother named
Oh, that's a H. Yeah, okay, Dean, Barrington. That's H, which is yeah. I forgot. It's his kid. It's his kid. Her daughter, his child, and these two. So these two here, okay, and then these two here, and Lockwood's out. Oh, and Lockwood he's the stay-in. He's the new tenant of it, so the story's been told to him. He represents us basically. That's what we get. He's on it. And she's the narrator.
Hindley, who resented Heathcliff from the very beginning. When Mr. Earnshaw died, Hindley took over the estate and reduced Heathcliff to a servant. He was humiliated, denied education, and stripped of equality. But the movie removes Hindley from the story altogether and makes Catherine's dad the abuser of both of them, meaning they're basically on the same playing field. So like I said earlier,
What she did was she took Earnshaw and made him be both the dad and Hindley, because he abuses Heathcliff. Yeah. Still takes him in because he needed an extra servant, I guess, man around the house. And also the father put him out, so he did feel bad, but you know.
In the movie, when Catherine decides to marry Edgar, it feels practical. It's survival. She needs to save her family from debt. So when Heathcliff reacts like it's this unforgivable betrayal, it almost feels dramatic. But that's because the film strips out the layer that makes this devastating in the book. In the book, Edgar isn't just rich, he's also white, which makes him the socially acceptable one. So the reason this decision hurts him so deeply isn't because she just chose the money, it's because she chose the world that rejected him. And then the movie does something else which makes this whole thing even flatter. So not only did they change—
Well, in a way, he's still rejected by that society despite him being white. Because there were white people that were servants, and they were rejected. As a matter of fact, the reason why colored individuals were ever even rejected was because England had already been rejecting their own kind. People that were considered lesser. Like, they had kids working in factories centuries before. See, this film is set in Victoria, London. And that's a very particular time period because Queen Victoria had outlawed not only homosexuality, but also child slavery in factories. She pretty much made it to where it was illegal for you to have a child. They're called slave labor laws. The child could not be forced to work in factories. They couldn't even get work to a certain age. But the point I'm making is she had a very particular set of laws that were rather religious when it comes to things like Christianity and sex and, because it was still a civilized industrial society. It wasn't as old as the Dark Ages or Middle Ages for that matter. So it has the film has a colonial vibe, but yet an 1800 vibe. Early 1800s, in fact. And so even though Heathcliff is not colored, he still has that low society servant attitude at the beginning of the film because white people did in fact oppress their own people before they started oppressing. Well, actually, if you look at the 1800s, they had actually already been oppressing colored people for like 200 years because, yeah, in America they were doing that as well. My bad. But still, they still oppressed their own people that were low, like poor and could not read. If you could not read, that was a big thing. That decided your education basically decided your standing in society, whether you were low, middle, or upper class. Because the rich were well read. You see that in the fact that Catherine and Edgar and even Nellie, they all read books during their spare time. There's so much reading in this movie, makes you jealous. They're not watching videos on YouTube. The rich people nowadays are dumb. Not dumb, but they're all into videos. Hence the film, what was it called? Have Fun, Good Luck, Don't Die. Yeah.
Heathcliff's race, but they also had a Pakistani actor play Edgar. That completely changes the dynamic from the book. Because now, instead of Catherine choosing the white socially acceptable man over the racially ambiguous man, she's just choosing the richer guy. Which
I think that's why they did it. I think because in the book it has a colored person is affected by white people, but they flip the roles to make it to where, okay, we'll make her husband be a colored person then. If we're gonna, because that kind of justifies. If we're gonna use Jacob Elordi, a white man, to play Heathcliff, let's use a colored man to play Edgar. That kind of flips the script, but also makes it even, I guess. Yeah.
makes Heathcliff's devastation feel so much smaller. And the film doesn't build anything new to replace that lost tension, it just keeps moving like the emotional weight is still there. Let's go to—
Because it is. Let me check my live stream real quick. What am I? Fucking fracking burgers. Let me move my camera down. Oh.
To the part where Heathcliff comes back after his long time away. In the book, his entire reason for being back is revenge. He wants to end every single person who ever humiliated him. But as the story goes on, the darker his obsession with power becomes. He's entitled, he's narcissistic, he's misogynistic, he believes he is owed Kathy. In the movie, yes, he's still technically a monster, but not too much of a monster because obviously we need to still find him hot. So remember when I talked about how Heathcliff married Isabella and they get into this kinky relationship where she's tied up like a dog and likes it? Well, you won't believe what actually happens in the book. In the book, Heathcliff is an absolute monster towards Isabella.
I'm sorry, are we comparing the book or are we comparing the movie? Which one are we doing? We're doing both?
Punishing
Could have led with that.
her for not being Catherine. As soon as they're married, he literally hangs her dog to solidify that he does not and will never love her or be
Are we forgetting what Heathcliff did to Isabella and her dog, or did no one read the book?
kind to her. But the movie turns this into
I think, to be fair, the director is assuming that nobody's read this book, so try to be quiet.
puppy play, because that makes sense. From there, the book shows her journey escaping Heathcliff and his abuse, and she ends up living far, far away. So let's just really think about that for a second. The movie decided to turn this horrific abuse into consensual kink for what? Because you need him to appeal to the horned up book talk girls? Just the other day, GQ posted a picture that said, horny Isabella Linton is the best part of Wuthering Heights.
She actually kind of is.
Are we serious right now? Have we
Yes.
all collectively lost our minds? It's not
Yes.
even that these scenes are graphic either, because there's no nudity in this movie, which is surprising. It's that it's
Not really.
so degrading.
I mean, if you had a lot of nudity, it would be in R, or else you couldn't show it in theaters.
With the intention of
Cinema.
being sexy. They cut down Heathcliff's monstrous character arc so we can find him hot, and that is exactly the problem. Because Wuthering Heights is not a romance. They don't love each other because they're attracted to each other. They love each other because they see themselves as the same person. Catherine doesn't say, I love him. She literally says, I am Heathcliff. That is not a crush, that is identity. The story is about two ego-driven, obsessive people ruining each other's lives and dragging everyone else down with them. You're not supposed to want what they have, you are supposed to hate them, but also kind of understand them. So when you strip away that entire layer of the story, you're left with two mildly insufferable 30-year-olds in a toxic situationship. And honestly, hearing the backstory behind this adaptation makes everything make sense.
So Jacob was playing Felix
Yep.
in Saltburn, and obviously in the mid-noughties the sideburn was quite a big moment. And when I first saw him in the haircut, I realised he looked exactly like the Heathcliff on my sort of very, very well-worn copy of Wuthering Heights that I'd had since I was a teenager.
So, Emerald, what you're telling me here is that the reason you made this movie is because of how Jacob Elordi looks. And then when making the movie, you add in a bunch of lovemaking scenes that weren't in the original. If you wanted to make a Jacob Elordi fanfiction, then just come up with your own story. Don't ruin a classic book just because you want to see Jacob Elordi get freaky throughout the whole.
Yeah, but look, she's looking for money, obviously. Come on, she's a white woman looking for money. You know what they're gonna do. You know what the white women looking for money are gonna do. Come on, they're gonna smash on every fucking. What other books can we smash that are not Harry Potter?
Press tour, Emerald seems to just make things so much worse for herself. She basically defends her adaptation by saying it was inspired by how she remembered the story as a 14-year-old, including made-up scenarios that never actually happened in the original. So when I said it felt like
Kind of like the director of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, how he said this movie is an adaptation of the book. Fans will feel like they're in the game. I mean, adaptation of the game. They will feel like they will remember the game. Yeah, I felt utter hate for the Leon that they chose because they did way swap the Leon. They chose, he's not necessarily a Pakistani, but he looks damn close to it, I guess. So it's from the film Zombieland Double Tap.
Like it was written by a 14-year-old, I was technically right. And here's the thing, I'm not one of those people that say that every adaptation has to be completely faithful to the source material, because that would just be boring. Some of the best adaptations ever barely look like the original. Clueless is literally Jane Austen, and it's set in Beverly Hills in the 90s. The Lion King is basically Hamlet with lions, and 10 Things I Hate About You is Shakespeare in a high school. They changed everything, the setting, the tone, the vibe, but they understood what the story was actually about. That is the difference. You can modernize it, you can stylize it, you can even completely reimagine it, but you have to understand the core first. You have to know what you're adapting. And that's where Wuthering Heights completely falls apart.
Like Resident Evil 2 remake, compare that to the original Resident Evil 2 video game. Not the video games, not the movies. Yeah. Versus the Resident Evil 3 remake and its corresponding Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Which, because in the Resident Evil 3 remake, they left out a bunch of stuff that was in the original PlayStation Resident Evil 3 Nemesis original game. Yeah, so I totally get what she's saying. I get it. I do. I'm not oblivious to it, but I guess it really works for me because I'm not a fan of the book, but I like the movie. So I guess. Sorry, I'm distracted by the TV on the side.
Something else I found during my research which I thought was incredibly interesting is how the movie is only the first part of the book. After Catherine dies, the story doesn't end like it does in the film. Heathcliff doesn't just stand there looking devastated, he becomes more of a monster and manipulates the next generation. It's messy, uncomfortable, and shows how obsession spreads and rots every generation. It's messy, uncomfortable.
Oh my god, is that the guy from 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, the doctor?
And shows how obsession spreads.
It is.
Everything it touches. And then there's the whole supernatural element. The book literally opens with Catherine's ghost at the window, and it ends with people saying that they see the two of them wandering the moors together. It's romantic in a twisted way. It makes their love feel mythic and cursed at the same time. The movie cuts all of this out, which had fans very upset. But in my opinion, I don't know if adding all of that in would have saved this version, because it already felt rushed. We jump from childhood to adulthood in about 5 minutes. Catherine's entire marriage flew by in a montage, and her death was even quicker. If they tried to squeeze in the next generation and the haunting ending on top of everything else that was in it, it would have felt even more chaotic than it already was. But on the other hand, cutting all of that out does change the meaning. It frames the movie as this doomed romance instead of showing the damage that the romance caused.
Because
anyway,
it is.
After being so disappointed by this film, I did what any other movie nerd does and went online to see if others felt the same. And yes, there was plenty of people ripping the film apart, giving their own takes and analysis on the adaptation. There was plenty of people.
Did she include the other shots? Did she include the Missy? No. Nope. Are you looking for the part where it says that Kathy and Heathcliff are both white Australians having sex? Sex, not sex. Come on, man.
Ripping the film apart, giving their own takes and analysis on the adaptation, which was great. But then all of a sudden, I started to get this influx of videos on my timeline of people hating other people for criticizing the movie. They were saying things like, people are taking...
They're so miserable, like, just enjoy it for what it is. What happened to fun? Yeah! And part of me gets it because, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. But, at the same time, I'm kind of like... So? Okay, look. Rightfully so. Resident Evil is only like a few decades older compared to this book, which is like... 1847. Sorry. 1847. It's 18. 5. 179 years old. 179 years old. Yep.
Taking this movie too seriously. Just turn your brain off and enjoy it. It was made for the girls. This movie too seriously. Just turn your brain off and enjoy.
I won't say turn your brain off entirely. Enjoy it. Have at least part of it on while you're enjoying it. Like, sorry, shoot me like I see two hot people be together. Yes, but it's not like the book. I didn't read it, but did you saw Jacob Elord's huge hands?
It. It was made for the girls. Sorry, but is it just me that finds that so incredibly backwards? Since when did made for the girls mean that it shouldn't have depth? Since when did romance automatically become this genre where we're supposed to lower our standards and turn our brains off? Bad adaptation aside, the
well, you know, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, other people like that have said that plenty of times. Not entirely them, but you know, they've said something similar. You know, give or take. Maybe not necessarily be stupid. They didn't say that, but like, women should lower their standards. Definitely lower your standards, because, you know, there was a guy named Kenneth. Forgot his name. Shit. He was a. I forgot what he did as a career, but he would say things like women have their standards way too high, so obviously they're disappointed when the type of guys they like don't end up liking them. The type of man you like doesn't want you. The man you want does not want you because you have your standards too high. You know? Because a lot of times, even though they may look good, a lot of these women, such as her age, they're not wife material. I'm sorry, they're just not. They got a lot to learn. What's that guy's name? Kenneth, I figured out.
The movie itself was bad. I don't care that it was two hot leads being freaky together. It's just such a strange take because it basically implies that women-led or romance-driven stories don't deserve to be taken seriously, and that really pisses me off. And the worst part is, the majority of people saying these things are women. Why as women are we criticizing others for simply thinking? Just sit with that for a minute. I recently rewatched Pride and Prejudice, and I could not stop thinking about how this one
There seems to be a left wing and a right wing here when it comes to politics for simply thinking. So the ones that are criticizing the movie for not being the book, they must be leftist, and the ones that are criticizing the book must be rightist. I wonder what, hold on, I'm curious. I'm curious at this point. Interesting. When is Beth? Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Brett Cooper. My bad. I meant Brett Cooper. My bad. Not Breath Cooper. Beth Cooper. Damn. Sorry. Let's see what Brett Cooper thinks. She's seen this film. I don't know. Check. Interesting. I'm gonna watch that. So she hasn't. Well, did she even watch One of the Way is Personal? I wonder if she's watched Wuthering Heights. Did she read the book? Let's see if she has any shorts. Wuthering Heights, my bad. Not Wuthering Heights, but you know, Wuthering Heights. Withering is like a more common version of. Ah, she has. I gotta watch this. Probably gonna get a copyright violation for this, but I've gotta watch it anyway. Damn it. Ah, fuck. Let's watch this.
So Hollywood might just have ruined yet another piece of famous literature, and between alleged race swapping and affair rage baiting and out-of-touch promos and a porn-brained director, those are my words, it seems like nobody online is happy with the new Wuthering Heights, possibly not even the star Jacob Elordi. Possibly not director, those are my words, it seems like nobody online and out-of-touch promos and a porn-brained director, those are my words, it seems like nobody online is happy with the new Wuthering Heights, possibly not even the star Jacob Elordi. The context here is that Margot Robbie and her production company are about to release their adaptation of Emily Bronte's novel Wuthering Heights, and the internet, needless to say, has a lot of concerns. Now, I remember back when this was first announced, when they talked about the casting, when they talked about who was going to be doing the music, FYI, that is Charlie XCX, which just seems criminal. That is criminal that is who's doing the music. Anyway, even back before the cameras started rolling, people were not thrilled about this adaptation. Because first and foremost, like everything I just said, without even seeing the film, they just do not think that this version, this take on the story is respectful, is accurate, is intelligent in the slightest. They just believe it is an absolute outcry. And one commenter on X put it so eloquently and said, "This is wine mom porn slop. It is essentially a darker Bridgerton, maybe even a 50 Shades of Grey, but like the Victorian Gothic edition. That is what we are dealing with here." And I have to be real here, because I would love to sit here and be like, I just love Wuthering Heights so much, I need to defend this novel, I care so deeply about this. But honestly, up until now, I really have not paid this film much attention, because out of all the big Gothic Victorian novels, Wuthering Heights was never my favorite. It actually might be the least favorite that I was ever assigned in school, that I ever just decided to read on my own. Like, I have read Jane Eyre, for example, about 10 times. I chose to write essays on it in college. I picked classes based on whether I could read it again. Like, it's just incredible. And Jane Eyre was written by Emily Bronte's sister Charlotte, but reading Wuthering Heights was a completely different experience for me. Like, that was a slog. It was painful to finish. I just did not love it. So going back a year and a half when the internet first started talking about this,
I'm surprised she actually read it at all.
it's like the new adaptation did nothing for me, was not impacted. Obviously, a great piece of literature being decimated by Hollywood. Nobody likes that, but I just really didn't care until this week. Until I started to notice how they were going about this press tour for the Wine Mom Porn Slop movie. How odd and obsessive the behaviors of the actors were, and how it's even stranger because of who Margot...
She talks way too fast, but let's finish the other one. No, not home.
Moment in the movie had more chemistry than the entirety of Wuthering Heights. The scene where Mr. Darcy helps had more watch Pride and Prejudice, and I could not stop thinking about how this one moment in the movie had more chemistry than the entirety of Wuthering Heights. The scene where Mr. Darcy helps Elizabeth into her carriage and their hands touch for literally half a second. Then when he walks away, he flexes his hand like he's trying to physically shake off how much he wants her. It's tiny, but it says everything. The reason that moment sticks with people is because of what's being held back. There is one scene near the beginning of Wuthering Heights which I think actually does this well. It's a scene near the beginning where Kathy is secretly watching two people do the deed, and Heathcliff comes in, lies on top of her, and covers her eyes and mouth. There was so much energy during that scene, and you could feel it. You could feel his possessiveness and how that changed their dynamic. I just wish the film had stuck with that tension instead of making them bang every second. If you wanted to make the story steamier or more cinematic, Fine, you could have at least leaned into that tension. You could have built scene after scene where the air feels thick and something almost happens but doesn't. But instead, it just feels like any other toxic romance movie. After watching the film and hearing all the discourse around it, I just have to ask, what the heck is happening to romance movies? Are we so backward now that a story as dark and toxic as Wuthering Heights can be marketed and sold as a cute girly love story? Because if that's the case, I'm genuinely worried. Think about how different the romance genre used to be. It felt like every movie was solely focused on making you deeply care for these characters and believe their connection. Think of classics like The Notebook, Titanic, or heck, even old Wuthering Heights adaptations. The goal was to rip your heart out, to make you feel the love and loss. Now fast forward to this 2026 Wuthering Heights. All this movie made me feel was bored and annoyed, but somehow it's been sold as the greatest love story of all time. Why?
Probably going by the book, but not necessarily this film adaptation of that said book. Probably going by the book or the subject of thereof in its entirety. I was going to say something else. Oh, movies or, timepieces of the era, time of they were literally created in. So the movie reflects the time in which it's made. Do with that what you will.
Why is there such a lack of care for the genre now? You can't just hire two hot actors with no chemistry, throw in a bunch of spicy scenes, and call it a romance. And there's probably some of you watching this that love the movie, which is completely fine. Film is subjective. I really liked Emerald's last movie, Saltburn, which I know puts me in the minority, so trust me, I get that taste is personal. But that doesn't mean that criticism is suddenly not allowed. We shouldn't be told just to enjoy it or not take it seriously. Thinking is not a crime.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be told to smash a movie just because you want views and likes and subscribers.
Analyzing media is fun. Talking about characters, their motivations, what a story is actually saying. That's literally the whole point of consuming.
Not to say that she's doing it. I mean, she seems to be a little bit talking about she seems like she's doing it in a more professional way, but some people will do it like that. Things you might have missed in
art in the first place. My final point is that you can make it sexy, you just can't misunderstand it. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this movie in the comments. Even if you disagree with me, I really want to hear it. And if you made it this far, please comment the word faithful so I can see all the people who don't have short attention spans and I can like all your comments. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye!
Good evening, this is the Oscar Expert here with Mrs. Oscar Expert. And also the new kitty, who's a great kitty. The other kitty exists. She's still here, she's in the other room. The couch, the other couch, it exists, it's in the other room. I moved to a different place. Oh my goodness. Brother Bro is not in the other room. He's actually traveling right now. He'll be back and we will do top 10s of last year, reacting to the upcoming awards and 2027 predictions, which we're already tinkering with. But this will be a new setup that will look a lot better than this soon. But we're here to review Wuthering Heights, and it's a Valentine's Day movie. It's a movie to take a date to. And also, Mrs. Oscar Expert has read the book. She's quite a book expert herself, and so she'll have a perspective on it that I don't have. And this is the third film from Emerald Fennell, who's been quite a controversial filmmaker, it seems. With Promising Young Woman, I thought that movie was provocative in ways that provoked interesting discussions. With Saltburn, it seemed to be provocative in a style over substance way. I don't really think it was getting at all that much, but Saltburn, it sure was fun. But Wuthering Heights, many were afraid, given Saltburn, that it'd be empty provocation at the expense of a classic novel.
You could say the movie is provocative in that there's a lot of sex, and it is also true that the novel, as it was written in the 19th century, does not have any sex. And I don't find that to be a problem necessarily, because the sentiment in the book is one of lust and longing, and obviously you can't write in sex scenes in a book in that era. For modern audiences, just having tense, lustful conversations probably wouldn't be enough. The relationship between Catherine and Heathcliff is sadomasochistic in that they can't have one another, and that's kind of what drives them. The BDSM is a way of physically representing that, but I wouldn't even say it was so much BDSM.
It wasn't that kinky.
No one was in leather.
I would say probably the most criminal offense here is just that the movie's kind of boring. I feel like there's not much to it. I didn't think the characters were interesting. The movie really focuses on the doomed love aspect, which is kind of an overdone thing at this point. And if Emerald Fennell is bringing this book to a modern audience, what does she have to say about this story beyond like, oh, they're longing for each other and that's pretty much it? That they like each other and that each other is hot.
The doomed love story is one aspect of a really great novel that has a lot more to offer that Ms. Fennell could have taken advantage of, but she didn't. The book spans over multiple centuries, and the children of Catherine and Heathcliff end up falling into the same tragic patterns of their parents, and it's a story of generational tragedy and this curse that can't be lifted from this group of people, and about class mobility of people falling from their wealth and gaining wealth rapidly and buying up each other's houses. And it's a cool, twisty, cyclical story that has so much more to offer, including ghosts, none of which were present in the film.
When I finished the movie, I was like, I am excited to hear what Kayla has to tell me about why the book is better and what the book included that is much more interesting. What we're getting here is essentially like a mom novel. Like, it really doesn't go much deeper than the longing and, you know, the basic story of class-crossed lovers that we've seen hundreds of years before Wuthering Heights came out.
Well, the doomed romance is a big part of the novel. It becomes more interesting because we follow the romance over like 3 generations, and then Kathy haunts Heathcliff as a ghost, and so their love exists beyond the grave, but...
That sounds really fun and weird. And why wouldn't someone like Emerald Fennell, who seems to fancy herself kind of a weirdo, right? Like, why wouldn't she kind of go there?
She sure does fancy herself a weirdo.
Yeah.
Is she a weirdo, though?
We don't know.
Not to mention the elephant in the room that everybody's been talking about, which is the casting decision of Jacob Elordi.
Yeah, I think that also contributed to me not getting, like, why it was so hard for them to be together when, in the book, he's not a white guy. And so there's like, oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's like another layer of why that doesn't work.
Back then, it was like dangerous and sexy that a man was ethnically ambiguous and had mysterious origins.
All the sexual players in the movie are white, and all the people that nobody is supposed to be attracted to are non-white. There are sometimes Hollywood tropes where side characters who are non-white, they're less desired, or they're like not supposed to be in the cards. I wouldn't like normally care that much about this, but considering, you know, the casting choice of Jacob Elordi, I actually do feel that it's a little bit weirdly backwards as a whole. If there's one thing that Emerald Fennell can certainly do, it's assemble a team and dress the hell out of this movie. Everything from the production design, the costume design, and Linus Sandgren's beautiful cinematography is all like gorgeous and wonderful to take in. It's a great movie to look at, but you know, at the end of the day, that is dressing. It makes the movie more enjoyable. And there were some shots where they're playing with the elements or shadow or mist that actually did, I think, speak to what was happening in the story in a layered way.
The windy, wily moors are a big part of the book.
Yeah.
You can't not have them.
It also had a really nice grit to the cinematography and the film stock. But yeah, I just don't think that there's that much to this over 2-hour film. And I kind of got the point early on that like they can't be together, but that's the person that they really want to fuck. And it just kind of sucks. And they're like doomed and tortured. Like, I get it. It did that the whole time. Thank you very much.
Should we bash the music too?
I thought that the score was good.
I'm one of those people that if it's a period piece, then everything about it should be of the period. So when you bring in anachronistic Charlie XCX music, and I'm supposed to be on the windy, wily moors of 1847, it just doesn't sit right with me.
Well, what about in like Marty Supreme where they play like 80s music?
Well, there is some music of the times. I forget the title of it, but it's something a sailor. I forgot. Look at the bloody soundtrack. Hold on. Okay, press it. Yes, it is. Let me look at my Spotify. Go to Spotify itself, not the. Oh, Dark-Eyed Sailor. Yeah, this one is in that. This right here, Dark-Eyed Sailor is in it. Can't play it for copyright reasons, but by Olivia Chaney. Olivia Chaney, Dark-Eyed Sailor. That's in the film. That's that old aesthetic sound that they're looking for to pertain to the times that this movie's in.
Music.
That's a good point. For some reason, that bothered me less. I think because there was less of a gap in the time period.
To me, the inclusion of the Charlie XCX stuff actually felt more like what her film that came out last week, The Moment, was critiquing, where Brat became
It's obviously used to bring the Generation Z and younger generations into the movie to get them as the audience. That's obvious.
such a phenomenon and such a brand that became favorable for other companies to like slap onto their product. It just feels like Wuthering Heights was like, oh yeah, we want like the young cool audience to get in on this movie, so we'll like bring in Charlie XCX. And it's not for a lack of effort. Like I listened to the album of this before the film, and the music is good.
The brand doesn't really have any connection to the story.
Yeah, I think you could feel the tension of like, we want to make it the classic love story that the moms will like, but we're also trying to add in like a little bit of kinkiness, but it didn't, it just dipped its toes over there and didn't quite go that far. I don't think it detracted with that, but again, the main problem to me is just, I just think it's very shallow and there's just not much here. I don't know if I have to say much more than that.
I did not enjoy myself though.
I enjoyed it listening. I was just like, I am done with this movie. It would bring me back in sometimes. I liked some of the scenes. I give it a 4 out of 10.
I gave it a 5 out of 10 on Letterboxd because I liked the crafts and I liked sitting in a dark room and thinking about the novel for 2 hours.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
What novel would you like to see get a BDSM update?
It's probably used to, probably used to get in more readers. I'm kind of interested in what Adam has to say about this. I want to listen to Rick Cooper.
A year and a half when the internet first started talking about this, like the new adaptation did nothing for me, was not impacted, obviously a great piece of literature being decimated by Hollywood, nobody likes that, but I just really didn't care until this week, until I started to notice how they were going about this press tour for the Wine Mom Porn Slot movie, how odd and obsessive the behaviors of the actors were, and how it's even stranger because of who Margot Robbie's husband is. Now, before we get into all of this, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you are not already, and of course, if you want to stay up to date on every single thing we upload, make sure to ring that notification bell. 2 housekeeping things. Number 1, I still have my show on March 1st at Zanies here in Nashville. The one that was going to be tomorrow was unfortunately canceled because I am still iced in. So if you got tickets for that, we will be resetting that date. Do not worry, but I will be at Zanies on March 1st. And also, if you want ad-free episodes and behind-the-scenes content, story times, vlogs, farm information, all of that sort of thing, all of that can be found at my subscription site over at cooperconfidential.com. TLDR, what you need to know before we really dive in here is that the PR around Wuthering Heights is giving Shein, it's giving Temu, Sydney Sweeney, Glenn Powell promoting anyone but you. I will say, I have had some new folks come and join the fun, join the family. You might not have been around back in December of 2023 when we dove deep on that story. Picture this. It is 2023, December of 2023, and all anyone could talk about in the pop culture social media world was whether Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney were hooking up while filming their rom-com Anyone But You. Or whether they were just method acting on this rom-com of theirs. You can see a headline here. Sydney Sweeney gushes over Anyone But You co-star Glenn Powell after affair rumors. I mean, like, they were all over each other, clinging, laughing, giggling, her bosom just popping out of shirts. They were going on family trips together and posing. They were gushing over one another. Just watch.
Sydney is very easy to pretend fall in love with. The ideas of love are swirling through your head while these big romantic moments are happening, so sometimes harder to differentiate between real life and fake life.
Sometimes harder to differentiate between the story and real life. Glenn, oh my God. I'm sorry, you said that it is hard to differentiate between real life and the story. Like, sir, you had a girlfriend. She had a fiance, and had, by the way, is the key word there. They both were in relationships. This whole thing, it went so far. They were like so in the story together. You know, it was so crazy that even Hoda on the Today Show even asked them if they were actually a thing, if they were in relationships, even though it was public knowledge that he had a girlfriend and she was literally engaged.
I have to ask because there's chemistry sitting here. Is this like a little romance?
No.
It's not.
No,
Well, then you guys really.
but we do love each other, and honestly, this is one of the most spectacular humans I've ever met. She's really incredible.
Oh, well, y'all are so cute together. Well, I just want to say I'm glad that you guys are in this movie together. Y'all are adorable.
Now, needless to say, both of those relationships ended very soon after this movie finished filming. Glenn and Sydney never publicly dated, so it does seem like maybe this was all some kind of publicity stunt, or they dated behind the scenes, whatever. Maybe it was, you know, some kind of affair turned cash cow. I have no idea. But the point being, this worked. It got everyone to go stream the movie, including myself. It was terrible, and yet we all were obsessed about it. We were all talking about it, and so the internet is now theorizing that Margot Robbie and her co-star Jacob Elordi for Wuthering Heights are doing the exact same thing. They saw that success. They saw it was a fun, silly little, you know, rom-com situation. This Wuthering Heights, again, it's like Wine Mom Porn Slop. It's releasing on Valentine's Day. They said, we're gonna do the exact same thing. But unlike Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell, nobody is gushing. Nobody is giggling and kicking their feet on TikTok. We are all actually very concerned. And they're concerned because this was obviously so staged, and it's even stranger, again, if you think about who Margot Robbie's husband is and what his role was in this entire situation. Now, before we get into that, before we get into all of these clips, something that you should know is that on top of people just being weirded out by the adaptation, people have already been concerned about the casting of this film, because in the novel, if you haven't read it, the bulk of the story takes place when the two lead characters, Catherine and Heathcliff, are very young.
Let's see if we can make her
19
speak
years
faster.
old, not really trying to spoil anything, but that is about how old one of them gets. Like, it is 15 to 19 years old. However, that is very obviously not represented in the modern story that they are telling, and it is not represented in the casting, because Margot Robbie is pushing 40. She is 35 years old, and Jacob Elordi is 28 years old. I do think that they did this for two reasons. Now, number one, this is Margot's film. She is producing it. She probably wanted to star in this. She's queen of taking stories that she wants to tell, putting herself in them. More power to her. That's great. If you have the opportunity to do that, amazing. But number two, because they have turned this story into a porno. They took a love story, this deep, gut-wrenching love story about these young people, and they turned it into a porno. Somebody posted,
Not really a porno, but
this on X and said, Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi playing 16-year-old Catherine and Heathcliff in this scene. 7-year-old boy. Yeah, that is basically what they're doing. And of course, diehard fans are going to be upset about that. But, you know, we could also argue that maybe, finally, somebody in Hollywood had common sense and they were like, you know what, maybe, let's not cast 16 or 17-year-olds for the Victorian era 50 Shades of Grey. Maybe that would not go over well. Anyway, I say all of that. That context is important because they are really desperately trying to make this film work. They know the people online are not too happy about it. They know that it's like a stretch, this adaptation they're doing. Margot knows that she is 20 years older than the character is, and so they want us to look past all of that, look past the possible, you know, offensive adaptation, the strange casting, and become obsessed with the film, as obsessed with them and it as they are with each other. They want to bring us into this world of Catherine and Heathcliff, hence taking the Anyone But You PR tour route. And let me tell you, they are going hot and heavy. Just look at this photo shoot that they did for Vogue Australia, which really like set this thing off. This is Jacob and Margot.
I'm not gonna use those
in that dress, she is fully nude. Fully nude. Excuse me, you have a husband, you have a child, and you are half naked with your co-star who is 7 years younger than you. It's just a bit odd. And many of the...
Well, obviously her child is not going to see her in the movie. It's rated R.
Comments were about that. They were about her husband. Somebody said her husband, meanwhile. Another one said her husband going through it. I mean, like, I just picked two of them. All of them basically say the same thing. Her husband is our strongest soldier. Here's the thing, guys. This is what I've been teasing. Her husband is the executive producer of the film. He is part of all of this, which is what makes it so strange and icky to me personally. Maybe not to other people, maybe not to people in Hollywood, but it's just odd. Even the Vogue article leaned into this. Like, it's literally titled Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, Pure Obsession, Cinema's Wild Romance. They're not talking about Wuthering Heights here. They're not talking about Wuthering Heights, the romance. They're framing it as Margot and Jacob having this pure obsession and wild romance. And again, listen, I get it. Don't jump down my throat. I understand that
It's for the movie, man.
marketing, and obviously it gets people talking. Here I am doing an episode about it, but this is where the lines between work and personal get so blurred in Hollywood. And you wonder why so many of their marriages fall apart, why people are cheating and bouncing around from husband to husband. I'm sorry, it's things like this. And I think that it's like one thing if you have two single co-stars, maybe they start dating. Like Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson are a great example of that. They obviously played it out for the camera. I was absolutely baited. I was like, oh my God, they're such a cute couple. It was PR. It was obviously PR. They were not dating. That was very cute. But Margot Robbie is very publicly and happily married, hopefully, with a child. And Jacob has long been in a relationship with Olivia Jade, who is Lori Loughlin's daughter, you know, rowing scandal, USC, that whole thing. It's that Olivia Jade. However, they did recently kind of go through a breakup where they broke up end of 2025, but they were just spotted together. So we don't know whether they're actually together, but the point being, he has been in a relationship. The point is, they're...
She needs to slow the fuck down. Jacob Elordi. What's his girlfriend's name? Again, Brisbane, Australia, of course. Of course. Of course. Of course. That's funny. He doesn't have anybody, I don't think. Oh, you life. Pass a life now. Yeah, he's 28 years old. He's Australian. Along with Margot Robbie. He doesn't have a wife, though. I don't know who Olivia fucking Jade is. I think I've seen her face before. Oh, she's a YouTuber. Of course. Yeah, YouTube only successful because your mother, honestly. Daughter of the fashion designer. Nothing to know, but yeah, but in the cinema award industry, you know, they do connections, obviously. Yeah.
They are not single, and it is disrespectful. Just like it's disrespectful to be eating meat that was not raised in the USA. Thankfully, you don't have that problem with Good Ranchers. Now, as America turns 250 this year, it is worth remembering the people who truly built this country. The ones who woke up before the sun, season after season, without applause, and obviously that is America's ranchers. For generations, ranchers have worked tirelessly to feed this nation through droughts and wars and recessions, pandemics and changing markets, you name it, they've shown up. And that legacy is exactly what Good Ranchers was built on. Every cut of Good Ranchers meat is raised on local American farms and ranches. From sourcing to packaging and fulfillment, everything happens right here in the US. Even Good Ranchers customer support team is in-house, and with every order, a portion of profits is donated to the paralyzed veterans of America. And so as we celebrate American heritage and culture this year, Good Ranchers truly sits at the heart of that story, supporting these ranchers every single step of the way. And by becoming a subscriber, you can too. You can help them fight back against these foreign companies that are trying to push them out. And by subscribing, you will get incredible American-raised meat delivered to your door every month, plus $25 off every box, free shipping, and a free bonus gift for life. So visit Visit Good Ranchers today to join the family. Subscribe to any box of 100% American meat and save up to $500 a year, plus an additional $25 off your first order if you use code BRETT at checkout. Again, goodranchers.com. That's American meat delivered. Now we also need to talk about American gun parts delivered with my friends over at Siler Shop. My friends at Siler Shop are bringing you guys the best suppressors for your firearms, which truly is the one upgrade, because shooting suppressed just makes you better. But back to the point about the personal and professional in Hollywood, in my opinion, personal opinion, professional opinion, whatever you want to argue, my opinion is you show up, you act, you do your job, the cameras turn off, that's it, boundary is set, you go home. Leaning into your characters and the speculation about obsession and affairs just to sell tickets, possibly at the expense of your marriage and family, is crazy to me. Again, remember, Sydney Sweeney is no longer engaged to her fiance. Glenn Powell's girlfriend is on record saying that this is the reason why she broke up with him. And it's like one thing if the movie comes out, you do your thing, and audiences, latch on to something, they become obsessed with the characters' relationships, they're fan edits, whatever. Like, that just means you're a good actor, you're doing your job. But for you to lean into that, for press and attention, that is weird. Objectively, that is weird behavior. But it's what Margot just keeps doing, because that Vogue Australia photo shoot was just the beginning. Now, from there, it really took off after Margot revealed what her co-star, her co-worker, Jacob Elordi, got her for Valentine's Day while they were filming. This was in the interview that they did for Vogue, and she said to him, my question for you is, we were shooting on Valentine's Day, you made my day, and as Heathcliff, in character, filled my room with roses, and it was so cute. And then she went on and she said, you definitely beat me, like he beat her Valentine's Day gift. Yours was so epic. I remember thinking on Valentine's Day, oh, he's probably a very good boyfriend because there's a lot of thoughtfulness in this. You did a lot of very thoughtful things. It wasn't just the gesture of the roses, it was the thing written from Heathcliff and the little tombstone thing. I was like, crafts, I love that. It was crafty, it was meaningful, it was dramatic. And at the beginning, I saw this and I was like, okay, like that's fun, that's cute and sweet. I remember when I was watching the press for Barbie, which obviously Margot Robbie did just a couple of years ago, she apparently gave Ryan Gosling a different gift every single day. They were like funny, quippy little gifts. He brought them home to his kids. It was really sweet. That's fine, whatever. He's in character. It's a bit odd, but actors are odd, emotional people, but it just kept going. The obsession theme kept going. Later, in a roundtable with the entire cast, I think that this just came out this week, she talked about how Jacob would always be around her on set, just kind of leering, standing in her vicinity, and quickly, as the days went by on set, she became codependent, as she said that she often does on movie sets, and she said this. She said, I found myself starting to look around to see where he was, Jacob Elordi. I was really unnerved and unmoored, and I felt quite lost, like a kid without their blanket or something. It's just like a very odd way to talk about your co-star. But then in another interview, she talks about the most romantic thing that somebody has ever done. Newsflash, it wasn't something her husband did, it was something that Jacob did. Just watch this.
You know the bit where it's raining and then he goes and covers
that was an on the day thing. Yeah,
oh,
that
I was
wasn't
wondering
in the script.
because I didn't. I was like,
do you know how that happened though? Is we went to rehearse it and they rehearsed it with the rain machines on because we were checking if the rain machine level was right. And I was going like that because the rain had started, and of course when you're acting with Jacob, you're like looking up like this all the time. So I went like that, and he just automatically went to cover my face because he's a gentleman, and it's just like that's second nature to him. He just automatically went like that, and honestly, both Emerald and I just went, okay, stop.
I know.
And he was not aware that he had done anything chivalrous or romantic at all, and we were just like, that was one of the most romantic things I have ever experienced and seen.
I mean, guys, I watched that clip earlier today when it...
They are chivalrous. It's like, you don't mean to, just it's just second nature.
Kind of, which I asked for first. Yeah, it just kind of happens like a parent, like a parent shielding a child, not trying to be a parent. You are a good parent.
Came across my feed, my jaw was on the floor. Ma'am, you have a whole husband who was producing, who was probably on set watching this, and you're like, oh my God, that was the most romantic thing. It's enough. Cut the cameras, like this is too much. But no matter, let's continue talking about how hot Jacob Elordi is, how hot and bothered he's getting all of these women, which he did talk about when she was interviewed by Jimmy Kimmel.
Just to put this into context, it's like 20 women were like frothing at the mouth. They were like rabid dogs. There were a couple of drinks in already, and then the movie started, and I was like...
All right, I have to pause right there. So what Margot Robbie is talking about here is that she hosted a screening for all of her girlfriends. They were watching it after The Bachelor. They were a little drunk, and they were foaming at the mouth because of Jacob Elordi. What did we say at the beginning? Wine mom, porn slop? Literally, that is what we are dealing with here. All right, anyway, she says one other thing.
Jacob came on screen, and they just like, I think it registered on the Richter scale. And
yeah, they go bananas for Jacob, right?
Honestly, I was like, if he walked in right now, I think they would eat him. It's safer that he's not here.
Was this back home?
Now, granted, have to be fair here. She was obviously talking about her friends, but again, it's the sex, it's hot and heavy, it's obsession, they're rabid dogs foaming at the mouth. Like, again, this is what they're promoting here. But now, this is where it really shifted for me, because in my mind, I'm like, all right, that's kind of odd. Jacob's, giving her presents. Is he leaning into this? This is a bit weird. Like, is this an Anyone But You, 2.0? But it shifted for me, because in another moment, in that same round table, Jacob casually joked, and he said, we have a mutual obsession with each other. He was kind of like feeding onto what she had said about her being a baby who needed her blanket, aka Jacob, and the internet just ran with that comment. Suddenly there were headlines, bop, 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 mutual obsession, they're obsessed with each other, all of these things. But what Jacob was really trying to say, if you watch the entire clip, he was trying to make it all about work, which whether or not it really is, whatever was happening behind the scenes, I do respect that he was trying to pivot back and be like, I was obsessed with her work. Just listen.
We have a mutual obsession. I think the thing is, if you, regardless of plot or screenplay, if you have the opportunity to share a film set with Margot Robbie, you're going to make sure you're within 5 to 10 meters at all times, watching how she drinks tea, how she eats her food, how she does it, when is it going to slip, when is the thing going to come undone, and it never comes undone. She's just like an elite actor.
Okay, so that is what he says immediately after she's like, he was, leering near me and always by me. So I think that there are two ways to read this. Now, I think one, he's just being like, regardless of what you're doing, if you get to act with Margot Robbie, that's really cool. You want to learn from her. I'm going to be around her. Also, I'm playing her love interest, so I'm always going to be around her. Or some people have said, her demure giggling, he's staring her down. People in the comments were like, oh my god, I've come undone, this is so amazing and it's so hot. So you could read it like that, like this is some kind of steamy situation that they have going on. For me, it kind of felt like he was just going, okay, yeah, we were acting together, I don't really know. And then it just got weirder, because I went into this whole thing thinking that both of them were being odd, but now to me it seems like he's this Australian heartthrob trying to be a nice guy, kind of intense, and he obviously was excited and grateful to be working with one of the most famous actresses of his generation. And then G and the PR team just decide to run with the obsession for clicks. And it's just objectively, I keep saying objectively, in my opinion, I mean based on the internet objectively, but subjectively in Brett world, it just doesn't make her look good. It's just weird, because the chemistry, in my opinion, just isn't there. Look at them together at the premiere. Tell me if you think that this is hot and heavy mutual obsession in the way the internet is arguing. I'm sorry, I know that she is very tightly wrapped into this insane corset dress and she's probably very uncomfortable, but if we're looking at him, he looks like he just got ripped into by his girlfriend, Olivia Jade. In pulling the screenshot right here, this is the face of, I am in trouble, I need to not be here, I need to be getting home, and everyone has caught on to it. Somebody said, this is for PR, I swear, because I see no chemistry. Another person said, Ariana and Cynthia have more chemistry than this. Literally, I don't think that that was PR, I think that that was just genuine instability and actual codependency. And apparently, side note, that weirdness between Cynthia and Ariana, apparently it cost them Oscar nominations. Literally, that is what sources have said, because people were so weirded out. People who vote at the Academy, they were like, this is just a bit odd, we're not going to vote for this. So PR can go in both ways. Another person said, why is everyone so mad that there's no chemistry? They are literally both in relationships, there should be no chemistry. And that is the point. And that's what people are commenting on, because after weeks of mutual obsession and these hot and heavy photo shoots and teasing and all of that, everyone is seeing through the fact that this is very much an over-the-top PR play. And if I was a betting woman, I would say that this whole thing was cooked up by the director of the movie, who, I'm sorry, is obsessed with sex. That is not something that I am just making up. This is the woman who is behind the movie. Cover your children's ears, parents. I'm giving you 2 seconds. She is the woman who was behind the film where a man had sex with a grave and then drank another man's bathwater in a sexual way. And funnily enough, by the way, Jacob was also in that movie. It was his grave, his bathwater, that whole thing. So maybe we can theorize that he's just tired of this crap. He does not want to be involved anymore. He's like, I don't know why I signed on to this. Who knows? Maybe that's another option. But anyway, according to this very sexual director, in keeping with the infamous bathtub scene from that movie, which is called Saltburn, something similar is going to happen in Wuthering Heights. Just watch.
I'm curious, what was the first visual that you had in mind? Since the slurping in the bathtub was the first one you had for Saltburn.
Well, it was a similar one, but I probably can't spoil it. But something happens on a rock.
Okay, so according to this director, the first visual that she had when she was brought onto this movie Saltburn was this very disgusting, infamous bathtub scene. And now she's coming into Wuthering Heights again, one of the most famous, deep, dark, tortured pieces of literature. She's like, there's gonna be some sex on a rock. That was the first thing I thought of. Lady, get your vagina out of your head is all I need to say. Anyway, somebody commented and said she is so porn-brained. Another person said Emily Bronte wrote long longing and grief, Emerald Fennell heard, let's traumatize everyone aesthetically. Another person tweeted and said, Wuthering Heights is a book about racism and cycle of abuse and healing from generational trauma told through two very unreliable narrators with a passionate love story inside that is far from healthy, and it is so frustrating to see Hollywood turn it solely into a sexual fantasy. And yeah, and here's the thing about Gothic literature, which Wuthering Heights is, it's always very dark. It's always brooding, it's like edgy, and there is romance. And you usually have these two characters that are like anti-heroes and they're wrong for each other, and it's deep and it's dark and there's sinister and there's like sexual tension, but that's not really what the stories are about. There's always things that are running underneath it, like with Jane Eyre, very similar. There are also, you know, it's classism, it's race, it's women's insanity and women's issues in the Victorian era, like all of these things. That is what is so important, and the romance really runs through that and helps tell the story, but it isn't about sex. And what this movie is doing is turning this work into something that is literally just about sex. It really does feel, as this commenter pointed out, that it is just this director playing out her sexual fantasy that she had when she was reading the novel. Like when she was pressed by some of these liberals who were outraged online, like why she hired Elordi to play Heathcliff when he is described as dark in the book, she said that she just wanted to create the fantasy that she saw in her head. Anyway, I'm not even gonna get into that today. That's a whole other episode. Like, needless to say, the alleged race swapping, it's a whole other political discourse online surrounding Wuthering Heights, whether dark meant black or whether Bronte just meant brooding and not, you know, actually dark, whether she meant Irish, whatever it is, it's all problematic. Everybody's angry. Don't worry, we don't need to talk about it. But back to the point. Regardless of who is pushing or plotted this affair obsession bait, it's bad. And again, it's just reflecting poorly on Margot Robbie. I've seen so many comments across all different platforms like this. Somebody said, I cannot wait until this promo is over. She is just showing herself in not a good light, embarrassing her marriage. Another person said, lady, please, you are married with a kid. And then another one, I thought this was most astute and simple. Ma'am, you are married with a child and an excellent actor. You do not need to do this BS. Like, yeah, that's the thing. She's so good. She doesn't need to prove herself to anybody. She makes so much money. She has done incredible films. She's been nominated, got like 3 Oscars. If she wants to make a slutty movie, go make your slutty movie. We don't need to bring us all into this weird affair thing, your marriage, whatever. Just do the movie and move on. Margot Robbie has been on, I would say, a generational run over the last decade with her films. Like, why are we tainting it with an awkward fake affair obsession to promote a Victorian porno where Charlie XCX is doing the music? That it just does not feel worth it to me. And you guys, again, may I remind you, her husband is the executive producer, which just makes it so much weirder. And yes, while I am sure that this movie will do well regardless of the Twitter and TikTok discourse, women will want to go see it, they will go on Galentine's, whatever. That does not take away from the fact that, first of all, this PR strategy did not work the way that they intended, maybe. And also, the sexual fantasies are just a bit much. They're a bit overpowering. Like, I think Hollywood in general is a lot hornier than the rest of America. Like, just listen to some of these comments on Instagram. This is on the trailer and other promos. One person said, I am genuinely peeved that the cinematography for this movie looks incredible because I want to see a movie with that look on the biggest screen possible, but I also don't want to watch all of the diabolical stuff on the biggest screen possible. I do not want to see Jacob Elordi shoving his fingers in a sexual way down Margot Robbie's throat on the biggest screen possible. That is basically what this person's trying to say. Another person commented and said they really made Wuthering Heights into a shitty smut movie. And then this one, highly relevant, this guy Tomfoolery Photo said, Book Talk has done irreparable damage to the youth. And guys, this is where we all come full circle, which I love, because this is the same Book Talk, the same TikTok subgenre that we talked about when we covered that TV show Heated Rivalry just a couple weeks ago. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll click the link below. We'll put that episode there. But it is horn-brained women online, fueled by Book Talk on TikTok, believing that smut, pornographic literature, are esteemed literature. And now they are taking esteemed literature and they are turning it into smut. And you might think, okay, Brett, that is so chronically online. That's not real life. That's just weird. I must say that a new smut bookshop just opened in Nashville this month, and it went viral because the line of women waiting to get in this bookshop was wrapped around the block. They could have gotten those books on their Kindle. They could have ordered them on Amazon, but no, they waited over an hour in January in Tennessee to get in to the smutty bookshop. Meanwhile, my generation is saying, Hollywood, it is too much. It is literally everywhere in our lives. We do not need to see all of this sex on screen in every single movie and TV show as well. We do not want it. Those stats came out of a report from UCLA, gosh, I think maybe a year and a half ago now, so only time will tell if Hollywood actually listens to the young people and the tide turns. But regardless, the point is, this is not a good look for Margot Robbie, or the film, or literature, or Hollywood in general, in my opinion. But I will say, Margot Robbie does actually look good, even though morally, value-wise, I don't think she looks good. Physically, she looks good, because like with Barbie, she is all in on the clothing for her press tour, and out of everything, that has been the most redeeming part of this entire debacle.
Ever
Got 12 views on it here, baby. 12 bloody views. Let's pivot. Let's pivot. It's how to make a kill.
Root for some murder. So How to Make a Killing is written and directed by John Patton Ford. This movie stars Glenn Powell. His character's mom had a falling out with her multi-billion-dollar family. However, that does not mean he's not in line to inherit the family fortune. Eventually. If a lot of other family members just, you know, die before him. After Margaret Qualley's character just makes an offhanded remark to him about it, he starts thinking, what a good idea. So in this movie, he starts taking out his extended family members to inherit the family fortune of about $20 billion. In which, describing it, I know you're thinking, so this is dark comedy, right? Has to be. Yeah, absolute dark comedy here. Now, funny enough, this seems based off of or inspired by a book from 1907 called The Autobiography of a Criminal, in which there have been other adaptations. They're never called that, though. There's one called A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, an award-winning play based off of that book. Guess it charges by the title. How accurate or inspired by is this movie to that book from 1907? In which the movie takes place in modern day? I guess that's where phrases like inspired by or loosely adapted come in handy. According to the internet chatter of the past week, is probably still more accurate than Wuthering Heights is to Wuthering Heights. There's that. So in true, this guy's not really a murderer fashion, but he starts committing murder. The first one's really easy, he just kind of falls into the situation. After that, he has to do a lot more planning, some due diligence. But he does increasingly get better at the job. And as for Glenn Powell, I thought he was great in the film. I mean, per the job he gets in the movie while he's committing these murders, it definitely looks like a Dark Knight Rises tie-in. Expect that comment in most of the reviews for this film. Glenn Powell left that film with a bump on his head and a pretty sweet story. Got knocked the fuck out by Tom Hardy. I do not have any such story like sweet story. Got news for this film. Glenn Powell left that film with a bump on in it definitely. I mean, per the job he gets in the movie, expect that comment in it of the reviews for this film. Glenn Powell left that film with a bump in most of the reviews for this film. Glenn Powell left that film with a bump on his head and a pretty sweet story. Got knocked the fuck out by Tom Hardy.
Oh, that's him.
I do not have any such story like Shinzon of Remus knocked me out on set. Pretty sweet story, to be honest. But there are times with Glenn Powell, I feel like he's this...
Hold on a second. Glenn Powell. Powell. What are you looking up? Dark Knight Rises. Yeah.
You can't short the stock because Bruce. You can't short the stock because Bruce Wayne goes to a party. Wayne coming back is change. Change is either good or bad. How about bad? On what basis? I flip the coin.
Who's the helmet? We need faces for camera.
Come on, let's go scalping.
Come on.
stock exchange. There's no money you can steal.
Really? Now why are you people here?
Yeah. I gotta check this shit out later. Who got knocked the fuck out again? Oh, yeah.
Action star, heartthrob, Hollywood plant. Then there are other times where I'm like, yeah, the guy has charisma, screen presence, such as the case with this one. I mean, the guy is offing people, and you are along for this ride. It's not like Dexter where you have the hook of, yeah, he's a serial killer, but he is killing other killers. There's that. I mean, granted, some of his family members are complete and total chowderheads. That's an advantage that dark comedies have. They're funny, they're twisted, but also they can dial up the notch to make you go, I feel conflicted here. And I like it. I even like Margaret Qualley as the femme fatale energy. I guess for a large portion of this film, I was like, what exactly is it she's doing here? Did you all put your heads together to make up a reason, thus make up a character for fine Margaret Qualley to be on screen? Is that why she's here? But she does eventually affect the plot. That was my thought process. But I really like Jessica Henwick in this film. She plays the love interest in this film, and therein lies the heart of the whole thing. She liked him before there was any concept of him being rich. So what are you actually chasing in this film? Love? Because she seems pretty amazing. I mean, we know what the dating pool's like. If you find one that's a keeper, you keep. But he's still to the job, to the task of killing, and you gotta ask why. The moment she's the established love interest in the film, in his life, you see two paths to two very different treasures here. Which one would you choose? Which one should he choose? That's an interesting thing to wrestle with as you're watching them. I like how the movie's executed where it starts out, he's in jail, talking to a priest about the story that got him here. In which we know now something goes wrong, and you're always looking for that. That was a solid hook too. It can always be a little more interesting when you see where the character ends up and they're telling the story of how they ended up there. The biggest problem with this film is the problem by a clear mile is the illustration of the passage of time. One example, he runs into Margaret Qualley earlier on in the film. Later on, he gets a phone call from her. She was like, you remember last year when I ran into you? And I was like, when? I imagine murder's gotta be spaced out to not make the authorities too suspicious, which, I mean, that's a plot. The movie looks like it takes place within the same month the entire time. Apparently a lot of time passes. We're talking seasons should have passed. I mean, he moves up in the ranks of his job pretty quickly, so time does pass. That was nepotism, so maybe not. I thought this whole movie took place in about 14 days? I don't need to play-by-play by days, weeks, or months, but maybe the Requiem for a Dream give me what season we're supposed to be in. Now you know the premise. You'll know if you like this. You know, I remember a conversation I had with a lady back when Dexter was at the height of its popularity. My friends and I were talking about it, we were gushing about it, and she was like, I could just never get past the fact that we're rooting for a serial killer in Dexter. If that's your take on Dexter, you're probably not gonna like this. However, this did have a better finale than Dexter, which isn't a finale anymore, I guess. But there's that. This one critic walking out of the theater with me, he was like, that was pretty bad. But, well, I enjoyed it. This was a fascinating tale of the road to hell, and I gotta say, it was a good one. It was dark, it was funny, it was witty. It had some surprising depth when you start marinating about the ending of the film. I had myself a really good time with this one. No alcohol required. It had some surprising cameos as the family members as well. I actually have to look this up because I think it was Gabe from The Office. It was Gabe from The Office. Amazing. All right, so How to Make a Killing. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Or what's your favorite dark comedy out there? Whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.
Nicely done, Jeremy. I like your presentation there, so. Yeah.
You know, I feel like in real life, this would be a really easy case to solve because the youngest people are dying in the order of youngest to oldest, and then the one person that's the super youngest is alive. Like, put the pieces together. Like, put the pieces, and then the one person that's the super youngest is alive. Like, put the pieces together. How to Make a Killing stars Glenn Powell and is about disowned at birth by his wealthy family. Beckett Redfellow will stop at nothing to reclaim his inheritance. So this was tonight's Regal mystery movie, and as soon as the A24 logo popped up on screen, this couple in front of me got up and left. Like, I don't understand the hate to A24. Like, I really don't. But either way, this is the brand new movie, How to Make a Killing, which comes out this weekend. I got to see it tonight, and I wasn't really hyped for the movie and all. I knew a little about it. I knew Glenn Powell was in it, and he was, like, killing family members to become rich. But the trailer, like, played in front of me, and I, like, half paid attention. I don't really try to watch trailers anymore, but with that trailer, like, I saw, like, a little glimpse of it. So I was open to the movie. I like A24. I like Glenn Powell. And overall, the movie was solid. It's a good little movie. It's not a movie I'm telling you got to race to go see in theaters, but it's definitely an enjoyable one. So let's start off with the positives, and that is Glenn Powell. I know some of you out there are sick of him already. I think he just keeps on proving how well-world he's at acting, and I think this is another development in his case of like how good of an actor he is, because he is good in this movie. Now, I'm not going to say he's Patrick Bateman-esque in this movie, because he is a guy wearing a suit a lot in this movie, killing his relatives to become rich. It's not gory at all, anything like that. There's a little blood in this movie, but mainly this movie treats it as like a dark comedy with a little bit of action and drama. But at the end of the day, Glenn Powell and his main lead performance carries this movie. You also have Margaret Qualley in this movie, who is a very small supporting role, and she's very good in every scene she's in. I just wish she was way more into this movie and her character had more fleshing out to do, but we'll get to the negative soon. But throughout most of this movie, I was enjoying it, you know. I felt like the beginning was really good, and the third act, I actually loved. Like, I loved the third act. There is a setting in the third act that felt like a horror movie. It was really intense, whatever. And after that scene happens, how the movie wraps up, I mean, it's kind of a very dark ending without going any spoilers, but I really like how this movie wrapped everything up, and I like the final note it leaves it on, because the movie is a story about nepotism, honestly, because there are these people in his family who are super duper rich and are completely living their best lives, and he comes from the ground up. And I feel like the movie does a good enough job to just go throughout these messages of how money can change someone, how if you find love, if you find that person and you have a good job, isn't that true happiness? But at the end of the day, $1 billion is $1 billion, and that can change your entire life and generations of your family. So the movie did a really good job at the overall tone of what it's trying to tell you as an audience member, and I thought everyone in the cast did their part. Ed Harris, small little part, very good. Topher Grace, this guy, really small part. He's in it for like one scene, really. He was solid. I liked everything who was in this movie, and I'm pretty certain this movie was shot on film. Wuthering Heights came out last week, which was shot on film. I feel like we're in an era now where a lot of directors, studios, cinematographers are choosing to shoot on film. I'm all for it. I don't hate digital. I shoot on digital for my short films, but I can't afford shooting on film. But these movies choosing to shoot on film, it just looks better on the big screen, in my opinion. This movie is shot very well. I love the actual blocking of the camera, how it moves, whatever, and just how the lighting works and the colors pop. That's due to the film and how film grain works, especially when they block lighting in this movie. There's just certain shots in this movie I'm like, that is a well shot. But at the end of the day, film, no matter what, to me, is going to look better than digital every day of the week. Now, getting more into my mixed aspects, I will say this, I feel like the middle portion really has an inconsistent tone to it because it is a dark comedy and it does get a little repetitive in the middle portion of the movie, but really, like, that's where it becomes a fun movie. And like, I feel like the beginning and ending had a perfect balance of just like dark comedy and decent drama. The middle portion tries to go for silly comedy in parts, and I don't think it works totally, in my opinion. Now, which leads into my negatives. The biggest negative is the pacing of this movie. The beginning of this movie starts off well. It is a narrated movie by Glenn Powell, but I think the beginning sets everything up really nicely. The middle portion, like I said, gets a little bumpy for me. The tone is not as consistent as its dark comedy is trying to be. The ending for the third act, I really loved. Like, I really liked the third act. But that middle portion just feels so out of place that the pacing of the movie feels a little wonky. Because even though I love the third act, there is a part where I'm like, all right, it's getting ready to end. And there's probably another 10, 15 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I will say, like, watching a movie like this, the pacing can kind of hit you in parts where it's like, okay, I get like what you're doing and everything. Can we just like speed it up a little bit? It does become just like a slight predictable, like in some parts, but like the third act, that is where certain parts happen and it's not predictable and it's like interesting and the stakes are higher. So like, I'm gonna keep repeating myself, the third act is 100% the best part of this movie. And then finally, my last negative, and this one is my biggest complaint. I don't think anyone in this movie I really cared about. Like, Glenn Powell is Glenn Powell. He is a charming dude. He is charming in this movie. He plays the role very well. Margaret Qualley, very good in this movie. But like I said earlier, I never bought their relationship. And their relationship is a key part to this movie. And then Glenn Powell meets another girl in this movie, and they have one scene together, and I felt like it was trying to be cutesy in its dialogue, whatever, but I never really cared when the stakes got even higher because the story never gets the time to really breathe. Like the first 10 minutes, he's narrating through most of it, him as a child, whatever, meeting young Margaret Qualley, whatever. And then the middle half is kind of like, oh, now we're a funny little comedy. Oh, look at him kill these people kind of in a fun way, whatever. But then the third act sets everything up perfectly and it develops pressure in the moments and these characters are in dire situations, but by that time of the movie, I really don't care about any of these characters. And I feel like if I cared more about any of these characters and their relationships and more of the situation, it would have hit even harder. And I already liked the third act. I think the third act could have maybe even saved it even more if I cared about any of the characters. So, at the end of the day, it is a watchable movie. I would say it's honestly a good movie. Like, it's definitely worth the go to see in theaters because it just feels like a movie that has that dark comedy flair to where I like that kind of stuff. I like when a movie is like cheeky but also being a drama at the same time. The beginning and ending does it perfectly. The middle portion, caring about the characters, the pacing really hurts this movie for me. But I would say if you're interested in this movie, I would say go see it. I'm gonna give How to Make a Killing a B. And if you're watching this video and you hate A24, can you please comment below and tell me why you hate A24? I think it's one of the best film companies working today, honestly. Like, I personally, as a person who wants to make movies one day, I would love to make a movie that's distributed by A24. So, that's just me, but let me know down below. Are you planning to go see this movie this weekend? If you are, let me know what you think about it down below. Anyway, guys enjoyed this movie review. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.
I saw a movie called How to Make a Killing. And it's
What is that?
It's an A24 dark comedy with him and
Oh,
Margaret Qualley.
Qualley, yeah, I love Margaret Qualley too from Leftovers. I don't know.
Was she in Leftovers, Margaret Qualley? Was she the daughter?
Oh my God, Christian, do you not remember? Remember the refrigerator scene?
You know, I love that show so much. I haven't seen it in so long.
They changed like this third season didn't have Margaret Qualley in it anymore. But that's how I the first time I saw her, I was like, oh my gosh.
Wow, I wouldn't even see. That's one of the, someone asked a question not too long ago of what's a show or movie that you saw a long time ago that has an actor in it now, and that would be my answer. That'd be
Yeah,
my answer.
she's so. If you went back, you'd be like, holy shit.
Yeah. I almost want to change the title of this show today to Gina Carano versus Ronda Rousey. I think it's a bigger story than the Mandalorian trailer, to be honest with you. I really do. We'll change that up. Let's change that.
I'm super curious. You're gonna have to explain to me why this is a big story.
Oh my God, it's a huge story.
That's the only problem with changing the title is that I'm so lame on this story that when you said that to me, I was like, does that matter to anyone? And apparently, yes.
Yeah, Ellis just texted me. He's like, I couldn't. He's like, what was his text? His text was, I'm pretty agnostic when it comes to MMA, UFC, and I can't imagine Rousey or Carano are even close to their prime, but I'm going to watch that fight, is what he wrote. But we'll talk about it in just a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk in just a moment. So anyway, get back to Glenn Powell real quick. I saw that movie, How to Make a Killing, and it's an A24 movie. You know my stance on him. I think he's good, but like I just don't know if he's.
But then I know your wife's stance on him.
No, she didn't see it though. I went and saw it on my own, and he's great in this movie.
He is? Oh, good.
He's great. He's great in the movie.
So good.
This is the type of stuff I'd like to see him do more of. I don't think this movie's gonna do very well because it's a smaller movie. I mean, but it's a dark
really
comedy.
good.
It's just not traditional, and I like that. It had me guessing. There's some stuff. There's some. You're like, wait a minute. How's that even possible that they wouldn't know that? And I was like, who cares? But overall, do you know what the story's about, or you know nothing about it?
Nothing.
So he is this guy who was, his mother was part of a very like wealthy, like Rockefeller type family.
Is this based on a true story?
No.
Oh.
And so when he was born, his grandfather, played by Ed Harris, is pretty much tells the mother, like, you either gotta get rid of this kid or I gotta excommunicate you from the family. She's like, well, it's my choice. And so she goes and she raises him in Jersey, but she's got no affiliation with this Rockefeller type family anymore.
Well,
Right?
that's kind of based on a true story. That kind of rings a bell to me, actually.
Sure, but how about this part? Then, as the guy gets older, he realizes he's still part of the inheritance, so he starts killing everybody in the family until maybe he is gets to a place where he can get the inheritance. So through all of this kind of dark comedy of that balancing this, it's almost, there's like a splash of like American Psycho in there, a splash of Very Bad Things. It's like, it's just not a traditional kind of movie overall, and I thought he was really good at it. Margaret Qualley, as I said in my out of the theater reaction, was deliciously deliciously not evil, but she's not they're not good people.
Topher Grace.
Yeah, Topher, she's barely in it.
Henwick. I'm surprised you saw this movie, Christian.
I was in A24 will get me in the theater.
Yeah, their movies are amazing.
Yeah, I
John
knew that-
Patton Ford.
He was
the
good.
director-writer?
He did a great job in directing it. I will tell you, I knew that the out of the theater reaction was going to eat shit because everybody pretty much was like, what is this movie?
What is this?
Nobody
Yeah.
knows what it is. But I was like, you know what, I'm going to go see it. And I went, I'll tell you what I didn't like.
I think that's cool to support too.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did not like.
What?
Were the two Gen Z movie reviewers or people sitting right next to me.
What happened?
They were awful.
What they do? Record
Absolutely
during?
awful. So the first thing is that they mixed the screening with I like the mystery movie or whatever. So they give tickets away to regular people, and then they mix it with the critic screening also. The regular people
So
were
the
very
fans and critics screen.
yeah. The regular people were very well behaved last night. Normally they're texting and talking, and I don't, they show trailers and stuff. So the first thing is they give for the critics, they give tickets, they reserve seats, and there's these seats all the way in the back, which is great. I love the seats in the back. I was hoping it wasn't in the front.
Right.
All the way in the back, and with reclining seats and everything. Initially, what they did is I saw these two women who were going in, and I saw they went in before me. And they sat right down. There was no one else in this row, and my seat was.
They're critics.
They're critics. My seat was directly next to them. I did not sit next to them. because not for them, because it felt weird. It felt weird, like
everything's empty and
nobody else was there, and I would just randomly sit next to these two women who were having a conversation before the movie. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'll go sit in the middle, and if anybody asks me to move, then I'll just. And nobody did, so I just
you
sat
become
there.
a middle seater
For last night, yeah, because there was so much room that I had no problem getting out if I needed to. So that's usually the thing. There was very comfortable seats, and they were talking before it started, and that's totally fine. So cue the trailers. Now they don't normally show trailers at press screenings, but this was a mix, right? So they show all these different A24 trailers.
Okay.
So these women decide, because they're critics and because the movie's not officially starting, that they're going to talk as loud as they possibly can.
During the trailers?
During the trailers.
Weird.
My ear was bleeding. And I said...
don't exaggerate for a second. What was the actual volume?
So if enough that you were in the middle row on the bottom level, you heard them.
Like this level. They were talking at this level.
I would say that probably, yeah, at that level. You'd be like, so, my interview's coming up with that person, and I don't give a shit. No one else does.
Yeah.
Shush.
Very odd.
It was terrible. And I'm like, do I say anything? And I'm like, I'm not going to say anything right now because it's the trailers. I think it's a dick move to talk during the trailers, but I understand not I understand.
Mentality.
I know what they're doing right now. We're not going to talk during the movie. And they didn't. They didn't talk during the movie, so I didn't say anything, nor could I. But they were at this level, and the conversation about who's being interviewed, and who's going to interview, and what's this going to happen, and I've got this and this, and then, a review of every single person that came on beforehand. I'm like, it's one of the reasons that I like to call myself a reviewer and not a critic, because I don't want to be lumped into that. Plus, look around. There was someone sitting right next to them too, at the volume that they were at. Like, what are you doing?
But they didn't do anything during the movie after it started.
No, talking during the trailers is not fine.
No, I don't think
it's not
so.
fine.
Why is it fine?
Who made you the authority on that? Talking during the trailers is not you. The comment. Someone said talking during the trailers is fine. No, it's not. Because how do you know that I want it? Like, I can't. If I'm trying to lock in on a trailer with a light, once the lights go down, shush. They tell you beforehand. It's time to silence your phones and shut the fuck up.
I think you can get away with whispering during the trailers.
Sure.
Like, I don't even think you can really get away with whispering during the movie. Like, but like nothing more than that. But you could keep your conversation going at a whisper during a trailer.
I'll give you that. And I'll give you for the chat. If that's the chat's
No, you can have your phone up.
Sure. If the chat's argument is, well, they were kind of whispering during the trailer.
Because not everybody can cover it. I'll tell you right now, trailers, they don't get reactions.
To win that argument.
Right.
No.
Talking like this in the middle of it when someone's 2 seats down during the trailer is not. It's not. It might not be
empty,
wrong, but it's not polite.
Especially because it's like A24's trailers, and so that you don't usually get to see those.
Yeah, they're trying to show. Yeah.
I wouldn't.
So, and it was like there was no consideration to. It was the same conversation we had yesterday about like how, restaurant workers have just changed dramatically. And it was just such a. I wrote to Ellis and I wrote to Martini, who and I'm just like, this is why I wrote my show.
You wrote what?
The show.
You wrote what to them because of what?
The conversations that were happening. It was such a generational thing. It was such a generational thing of just like, well, we're here. We can say whatever we want. Their opinion was so loud. I'm like, it doesn't matter. This is my opinion.
How old were they?
Got to be early 20s.
Okay.
Maybe mid. But yeah. Did you see any good trailers? I was so.
Yeah, you were listening to a conversation.
I was trying to lock into it, but in the middle of I would hear, but then I have to hear who that person was interviewing from the trailer. 5 seconds later.
Yeah, man, that sucks.
It was terrible. So anyway, but the movie, it didn't ruin the movie. They to their credit, didn't hear peep at them during the whole movie. They watched the movie.
I don't feel like you get credit for that, but.
Well, I mean, I guess not credit that. The credit is that I was like, oh great, this is going to be a conversation that I'm going to have with them during the movie, and it wasn't. It never was. They were fine. It was
to their credit.
That was the end of it. To their credit.
To their credit, they didn't speak during.
To their credit, they were well behaved during the movie itself. But but the good news is that I love going into movies that I have know nothing about,
Yeah.
and then just walking out pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed it. I thought about the movie. I always think if there's a movie, like if I can go through the movie and pick out like scenes and stuff and remember them, there's a lot of memorable scenes.
I'm trying to watch a
throughout the whole
fucking
time.
film.
You like it.
You
You definitely like it.
It sounds like it's a movie based in truth, like just the way I like movies that could be based in truth until they couldn't be. Like, and then there's that turn. He's
Yeah.
killing people. I like premises like
Yeah, and it's like when you're looking, you don't. This is where Glenn Powell comes into play here, because you shouldn't really like this guy at all. But you do at times, and then you're other times.
charming.
Yeah, he's charming.
My boy's charming.
Yeah, he's charming, and I want to see him do more stuff like this. This is the type of stuff where I buy him as a lead.
I think you would like the show he did.
Maybe so. I heard it's good. I never dislike him in anything.
Yeah,
I just don't think he's the movie star that everybody that his team thinks he is, because not everybody else clearly doesn't think he's a movie star, because his movies don't do well.
Yeah, slash
No, he's a movie
the same
star.
conversation you and I are having consistently. I'm hearing people have. I'm like the only one who seems to think he is a full-blown movie star, like my personal taste in movies.
Sure. I mean, he's got charisma. He's got, it's someone people don't understand also that some woman tweeted me after our conversation, and he signed a deal to do a new movie, and she's like, "Oh, but Christian says he's not a movie star." I didn't say he wasn't getting deals. I didn't say he wasn't getting deals. I didn't say he wasn't doing movies. I just said that the movies weren't doing very well. The audience wasn't supporting him.
I wonder if I meet him one. I've met him before, but not since I've been like vehemently defending him. And I am curious, like, if he knows the rhetoric around him at all. Like, do you think he's protected from that, or do you think that he knows?
Nah, I'm sure he does, because I think he pays attention to social media and stuff too. Because I saw a couple things that would stop trying to make Glenn Powell happen, and I think it's unfortunate. I don't think it's his fault. I think it's his team's fault, the way that they pushed him. I don't think it's his fault. It's not his talent. He's talented. He has the right stuff to get to where they're trying to get him go. Sometimes they throw these people in too quick, and it's like to me it's like a WWE thing. It's like a main event push before you even won the Intercontinental Championship. Now, that might sound like German to you, but like wrestling.
No, I get what
You
you're
get it?
saying.
Yeah.
I just also think though that like clearly because he pivoted to doing a TV show and now is doing A24, like I think he's on the pivot.
Good, and he should, because he's good in this. I love talking about Lisa, and I didn't realize. Look, when I got my daughter her mattress, her entire night just changed. And when we switched that over, her old mattress to Lisa.
Let me tell you I'll tell you the quick synopsis of the story. We meet Glenn Powell's character he's in prison and he's on death's row. And Beckett is about to be killed for we don't know what for. But he starts to confess and tell his story to the priest. He was a young man.
I've seen it 5 times. No chance to watch that.
His mother
Explicit
had
reasons.
him and probably shouldn't have.
Emphasize the word
She,
out of wedlock.
Out of wedlock, had Beckett as a baby, raised him to live a good life. He learns later in life that he is part of the bloodline.
Nope, you're not watching
of
it.
What are the Red Fellows? Is that the name?
yeah.
Yes, Red
Mass
Fellow
Patrol
family
scenes.
worth
No,
multi-billions of dollars. And when he runs into Margaret Whaley named Julia, who's her character Julia, Beckett has known since he was a kid, and she's like, hey, well, you gotta get killing those relatives to get that money. She kind of makes it as an offhand joke. He's kind of heartbroken that she's off to get married after they've reconnected. And then he seriously considers, what if I did knock off these 7 or so relatives and got all that money? And he decides to do it. Now, the trailer for the movie would have you believe this is an action film. It's more of a clever comedic thriller that kind of works. he ends up offing
good actor,
one of his
you know,
relatives,
he's
who's this
trying,
artist,
gets
Noah
with man,
Redfellow, who has a
to be in the
girlfriend.
race.
And then after he offs him in a really bizarre, clever way, because each of the ways he dispenses with his cousins, he does it in a way where it kind of seems like an accident or something that's a bizarre set of circumstances that could never be murder. No, not murder at all. But then he gets involved with Noah's girlfriend, becomes his girlfriend, Ruth, played by Jessica Henwick. It's funny. The thing that carries this film is Glenn Powell. Margaret Qualley, you like her less and less as the movie goes on. I don't know how to classify this. It's one of those things where I finished the film and said, well, that was fine, but it's hard to relate to this guy. I mean, they really go out of your way to make every character that he has to kill a horrible person. In particular, Topher Grace plays this Pastor Stephen, who's this
televangelist,
televangelist. He's playing the stadiums. He's a scumbag behind the scenes, and they go out of your way to make sure you really despise all these people, so that when Glenn Powell as Beckett comes up with the clever way to get rid of them, they had it coming, and you don't feel for them at all. I don't know how I felt. I mean, it was fine. It's just, he becomes a murderer to get money. Seems kind of, and then I won't reveal the ending. But I did not like the way it ended. I mean, he's in prison. He's telling his story to a priest. There's going to be some twist.
69.
You got to see it coming. But I'm really lukewarm on How to Make a Killing. It feels to me like a streaming movie getting released in theaters. Alan, what did you think?
Yeah, I felt the same way.
We gotta stop talking about
I
streaming
remember
movies. We
walking
gotta
out of
stop talking about
theater,
streaming movies.
arguing with myself whether I liked it or not.
Yes, I was doing the same exact.
I can tell you what this movie is. I mean, look, I at the end, I just kind of came to the conclusion of, if I have to argue whether I liked it or not, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
The issue for me is just the premise of the movie. I talked about last week with Crime 101, the idea of this criminal with a heart of gold, and because he has a heart of gold, he should be able to get away with his crimes. It's one thing to steal things, he should. The idea of this criminal with a movie. I talked about last week with Crime 101, the idea of this criminal with a heart of gold, and because he has a heart of gold, he should be able to get away with his crimes. It's one thing to steal things, to steal from the rich, give to the poor, that type of, or steal from the rich, keep it for yourself. But when it comes to murder, that's a whole other thing.
Well, to be fair, we've been rooting for these types of criminals. You got Fast and Furious series, where they often steal great sums of money to go into work for the government. Eventually forgives them and has the government. Well, the government kind of bullies them into working for them. Work for us or we'll throw you in jail. And even other people like, The Rock's character, Dwayne Johnson's character joins forces with them, and then they all seem as good. But then you also got movies like Ocean's 11, where they're clearly stealing from the casinos, yet we're rooting for them the entire time. Alan doesn't really have a remark here. Sorry, he doesn't. He doesn't have a good rebuttal. Why do you have a problem with that? That if it's not woke, you got to find some reason to talk bad about it.
I kind of liken this to a Stephen King drama, or a thriller drama, where there's nothing supernatural about it, but it's really an examination of the human condition. I think, isn't Shawshank Redemption, is that a Stephen King novel?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. But the thing about Shawshank Redemption is, there's the happy ending. In this one, and Tim Robbins' character didn't do it. In this one, he does it, but he still has that heart of gold. And to me, that was the biggest wrestling match I had with this, because for all intended purpose, you remove the crimes, you remove the murders, and this should be a story of a guy overcoming the odds. through hard work and dedication and overcoming the evil bad guys. And here he gets it through killing family members.
That's why it's a comedy. He's just gripey.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately where the do I like this or not? And then you have that ending, which is like, okay, the problem with the ending is it doesn't reveal itself until the end. And so you're not what you're watching, it doesn't naturally lead to that ending. Because when the ending happened, it just happens. And and I think it was that ending that made me really wrestle with whether I liked it or not, because I get it. I get the lesson it's trying to tell. But we talk about it all the time. Did he deserve the ending? And I'm like, no, he didn't deserve the ending.
Yeah. So this is a lukewarm recommendation, like a bare recommend, like a 6 for me. But you're right. I had the same struggle. I wasn't quite sure if I liked the film, even though I enjoyed the actors, Margaret Qualley. But by the end, she just becomes loathsome.
Yeah. But I mean, again, I brought it up last week. I'll bring it up this week. There's this trend now in movies. Look, the Criminal with a Heart of Gold, it's been in cinema for forever, but it just seems like we're seeing more of it now.
Not really. It's just it's just the same as it's always been.
And that the crimes being committed, or that the Heart of Gold, the people with the Heart of Gold, it's like, yeah, we really have to buy into it, and we will forgive whatever crimes they've done. And I just can't apply that to this movie.
Well, so do you give it a bare recommend?
No.
Okay, so you don't recommend. I give it a bare recommend.
Yeah. There's better. Go see Nirvana, the band, the movie.
Yeah. I want to see that again.
No, because she's a fucking line down. If you were remotely Christian, you wouldn't do that. How is it?
Margot Robbie's husband is. Now, before we get into all of this, make sure that you like this video. They could have ordered them on. The line of women waiting to get in this bookshop was wrapped around the block. They could have gotten those books on their Kindle. Waiting to get in this bookshop was wrapped this month, and it went viral because that a new so chronically online, that's not real life, that's just weird. You might think, okay, Brett, that is so chronically online, that's not real life, that's just weird. I must say that a new smut bookshop just opened in Nashville this month, and it went viral because the line of women waiting to get in this bookshop was wrapped around the block. They could have gotten those books on their Kindle. They could have ordered them on Amazon, but no, they waited over an hour in January in Tennessee to get in to the smutty bookshop. Meanwhile, my generation is saying, Hollywood, it is too much. It is literally everywhere in our lives. We do not need to see all of this sex on screen in every single movie and TV show as well. We do not want it. Those stats came out of a report from UCLA, gosh, I think maybe a year and a half ago now, so only time will tell if Hollywood actually listens to the young people and the tide turns. But regardless, the point is, this is not a good look for Margot Robbie, or the film, or literature, or Hollywood in general, in my opinion, but I will say, Margot Robbie does actually...
They won't. They won't listen, trust me. They will not.
If you often find yourself...
I'm actually kind of tired, so... Yeah, I think I'm going to hit the hay. And continue this at another time. Oh. Thank you for watching. And be sure to subscribe. I'll try to post some more, live stream some more later today. if I feel up to it. If not, I'll probably continue it like the next day.